So phase one, we targeted 111 sites, and the project completion date, the projected completion date for phase one is March 2019. And the reason why I'm saying projected is because anything can happen. We'll also take you through a few challenges that we have. And that's why we're saying projected completion date. So just in terms of the distribution of the 111 sites, you'll see that we've covered all the 14 regions there, starting with Karas, 6 sites, Erongo 6, Hardap 8, Kavango East 9, Kavango West 8, and so forth. With Wangwena, 10 sites, Musati 11. So this is how we have distributed the 111 sites for phase one. Obviously, it's on the basis of a lot of analysis that we've done in terms of where we need network coverage. It's not just because we wanted to cover all 14 regions, and that's why the numbers would also differ from region to region based on what is already there and based on what the network requirements are in the different regions. So just in terms of summary, in terms of this is by far the most important slide in terms of update. We have 41 sites that we have completed. Where is this thing? So we have 41 sites that went live on air since December 2018, meaning they up and running out of the 111 sites. Then we have 64 sites where civil works have been completed, and we're going to explain why those sites are not up yet, because the civil works are already done when I speak about some of the challenges that we're experiencing. And then we have 47 sites where civil works are still ongoing. So in terms of update, 41 sites are live and on air. They've been switched on already. And I'm going to show you also where the 41 sites are that we've already switched on, so that you just know. I'll show you at the end of the presentation, otherwise I'll have to go out. 64 sites, like I said, civil works are completed, and 47 sites, the contractors are still busy as we speak, completing the civil works. So just in terms of network expansions, we obviously, there's a great need to expand 3G in rural areas so that we can increase broadband internet, giving access to rural areas. And of course, with that sort of investment, we have to invest and upgrade in our transmission network. And this is all part of what we're doing. Now, what we also need to do is, with every site that we erect in a rural area where there is no power, it is MTC's responsibility to bring a power line to that site, which is obviously a very costly exercise. And that's why, if you go back to the 64 sites where civil works have been completed, the reason why they're not up yet is because there's no power in those areas. And power doesn't just fall from heaven. We need to make sure that it is also not our responsibility to go and put on fire, but we pay for whoever needs to do that. So we're waiting for those authorities, the different REDs, the Seno REDs and the Northern RED and the Lutheran RED, and all those REDs. We've engaged them already. Most of them we've completed PO processes, and they will now be responsible for making sure that the power lines are erected. And that is why, otherwise those 64 sites would have been up and running a long time ago. So that is one of the key challenges that we have in terms of the construction of power lines. But the beautiful thing about constructing power lines is, as part of the project, it also contributes to social responsibility in terms of bringing power to that specific area, which would not have been the case. Because whenever there's power, there's a lot of other things that can happen. In terms of providing 3G in rural areas, there's obviously, you would recall that we had a huge campaign a couple of years ago called a smartphone, where we introduced heavily subsidized smartphones into rural areas so that you cannot have internet connectivity and all these things, but people cannot have access to it. And I think at the time, the best way to give them connectivity was through smartphones. But obviously it had to be affordable. So we made it as affordable as we can. I think, can't quite recall, but I think it was $300 or $399. Yeah, so it was probably the cheapest smartphone in the world. But it's not cheap from the suppliers because we had to subsidize it to make. There's great need to continue doing that so that people can reap the benefit of our investment in bringing ICT to those areas. Like I said, service delivery from different power utilities very, very slow. It is something we continue to engage them to ensure that the power lines are up, because there's no need that we have all these civil works completed and the sites are just standing there. The other thing that we might have to do is to use generators, but that also eats into our costs. You know, this is already a very costly project, and that's why we're doing everything we can to ensure that the power lines, that the authorities come and put up those power lines. The other challenge is obviously constant power failures, especially in the northern regions. Remains a great challenge, because without power you cannot do anything, and we are of course not a power utility. So those are some of the main challenges that we face, as far as especially in the northern regions, that we need to resolve.